Hello everybody, this is General Yanis, and today in Death Card Tactics I'm going to be talking about a battle, 2000 points that I had a couple of weeks ago versus the new Battle Sisters. My first time facing the Battle Sisters, and it was really interesting pitting Morvenn versus Mortarion. So looking at what happened and the key learnings and takeaways from this first encounter with the Battle Sisters. So today, the 10th of July, so it has been, as few people have noticed and commented, I have not been able to post so many videos in the previous period. It's been a very hectic in real life period with work and family. I didn't have much time to do Warhammer, so hopefully now things are a bit opening up again. And but yeah, soon we're heading to the vacation period. This is how I felt, and I had Mortarion telling me to get up Maggot, but maybe Maggot was in positive terms here for Mortarion. So 2 weeks ago, I had the chance to try out my generic 2000 point Mortarion list versus the new Battle Sisters in the local game store, including Morvenn Vahl and the feared Retributor squads from the Battle Sisters. In this video, looking at the post-battle analysis and the key learnings. I'm going to give you the quick list overviews, the mission, the deployments, the game results and the synopsis, and then some key learnings and a bit data on the Retributors. So before I start, a big thanks and shout out to all my patrons that are for your support even during this bit slow period. But with no further ado, let's take a look. So this is my Death Guard 2000 point list that includes Mortarion and an inexorable battalion for 8 command points. This list I used versus the Salamanders in my previous video, and I wanted to play a list that would be a generic, maybe kind of tournament list, and try that out and get more familiar with all the rules, so it gets more. I can play faster. Let's say that's the thought. So it's not optimized for Battle Sisters, it's more an all-comers list. So we have Mortarion, of course, in the Supreme Command detachment. Typically, I would select Gloaming Bloat for his Plague Company specific Warlord trait. In the battalion, we have the Plague Burst Crawlers with Entropy Cannons as the heavy support. We have the Contemptor Dreadnought, the new addition to my collection with 2 Volkites, costing 1 CP to take. The Contemptor is buffed by the Tallyman with the Tollkeeper, and then the Chaos Lord, the cheapest way to get rerolls. We have 2x3 Death Shroud for deep striking and doing melee damage. We have 5 small squads of troops for objective secure. We have 3x5 Plague Marines. I had room for 1 flail and 1 blight launcher in 1 squad, and then the others to save points. Only 1 blight launcher. This was not optimal against the Battle Sisters. I would have preferred to bring the flail instead of the blight launcher, and then 2 units of poxwalkers to sit on objectives and just be present on the board, blocking off the terrain for the enemy deep strikes, etc. Malignant Plaguecaster and the Chaos Lord, as I said, as HQ choices, and it would be nice if I could fit a Foul Blightspawn in here, but again, with Mortarion, you're quite limited to what you take. So this list has quite a lot of firepower with the PBCs and the Contemptor, and a lot of smaller troops, let's say, to take the board. So let's look at the Battle Sisters army. Looking at the Sisters of Battle 2000 point list, we have the Supreme Commander, also of the Battle Sisters, the new model Morvenn Vahl, included in the list, and then we had a battalion of the Order of Bloody Rose and a patrol of the Order of Argent Shroud. So if we start with the battalion of Bloody Rose, we have a Canoness and a Palatine as the HQ, and they are both upgraded to like the Space Marines can upgrade to have a Chief Apothecary and so on. The Palatine has the Ward of the Emperor, which is very strong extra ability, giving Fight Last ability, like the Foul Blightspawn's ability, and also with Miracle Dice, it can ignore Invul Saves. So this is a very strong, potent ability, for example, versus Mortarion. The Canoness with the Rapturous Blows gets extra damage, bringing her up to damage 3 with her melee weapon, so she's also effective against, for example, Plague Marines. Then we have six squads of Battle Sisters, five each, so it's a lot of bodies that can be put on the table. We have the Celestial Sacrasents, the new unit, and they are taking the halberds. 440 points, so a strong melee unit, and with the Bloody Rose they get extra attacks on the charge and etc. So the Bloody Rose is a good fit with melee units. Two fast attack units, the Seraphim squads that can fly and arrive from deep strike. One squad has hand flamers, the other has just bolt pistols, and two rhinos that can transport the sisters and the sacrasants on the table. On the patrol, costing 2 command points. We have the Order of Argent Shroud. The HQ here is the Missionary and the Palatine. Sorry, not sorry. And then on the troops we have a big squad of 20 Battle Sisters with 4 Stone Bolters for 240 points. And in the elite squad slot we have the Dogmata, and the Hospitaller that can bring dead models back. And then, of course, in the heavy support, one of the best units for heavy support in Warhammer 40k, the Retributors. So 2 units of 5 Retributors that can have 4 multi-meltas each, and then 2 Cherubs that can allow 1 model to shoot again. So 450 points, 2 units here, and then a Rhino that can protect the Retributors inside. So a strong list with a new Morvenn Vahl, and Morvenn Vahl, of course, be having very high, very good buffing abilities. Can give reroll everything to 1 unit and reroll once to hit and wounds as an aura. Loads lots of toughness 3 bodies and a lot of buffing characters. And the Argent Shroud has a very good fit with the shooting part of the army, and the Bloody Rose has a good choice for the melee-oriented units, and then Rhinos for transportation and protection. So a lot of models, a lot of characters, and a lot of buffs and strong firepower and melee competence on the table. So just looking at the orders for the Battle Sisters and the combos used, as I said, the Order of Argent Shroud makes the Retributors much more dangerous than, for example, Eradicators. So with the Order of the Argent Shroud, all the units in this patrol, they can advance and shoot with no penalties. So this means that they could come up to 37-inch threat with the Hand of Emperor Sacred Rite. This Sacred Rite that they can select in the beginning of the battle, for example, gives +1 to the advance roll and +1 to the charge roll. So they could advance with +1, and they can still shoot their multi-meltas with no penalty. So this is a really strong combo. And then you can get 8 melta shots on a 5-man squad, 450 points, even after advancing. So a very strong, let's say, ability. Additionally, the H unit can reroll 1 hit roll or 1 wound roll, so it would, in essence, it counts as having 1 more attack with a squad. For the other Order of Bloody Rose, it gives extra attacks and AP for melee squads if they charge or perform heroic intervention, and you add 1 to their attack characteristics, and they improve the armor penetration. So a good combo with the Hand of the Emperor to get +1 to the charge rolls. So the +1 to advance helps the shooting squads get a good range, and the +1 to charge helps, of course, the Bloody Rose units to engage in combat and make the charge. So we picked the mission and the secondaries. We got the Eternal War, the Strike Force, the 4 pillars, the map in 4 quarters, let's say, where the center is free, and then we have 4 objectives. For Death Guard, I chose the While We Stand We Fight, having Mortarion and the 2 Plagueburst Scrollers being the 3 most expensive models. I chose Assassinate because the Battle Sisters had really a lot of supporting characters. I was hoping to clear out the screen of Battle Sisters and then get to their characters. And then I took Engage on Fronts. This map is very easy to get scoring Engage on Fronts. You can just move from the get-go and get easily a presence on 3 quarters. Let's say this is basically a no-brainer, I think, for this map. For the Battle Sisters, they took the engage all fronts as well. They took the new no prisoners, seeing that I had a lot of elite infantry, the Death Shroud and the Plague Marines, and then Octarius data, the new one, that it was deploy scramblers basically. And in this you need to do it now 4 times, 1 in each quarter, to get maximum points. And this, again, this map is already divided in quarters, so it's quite a good fit. Again, here we're trying to get engaged on fronts to also do this Octarius data. So looking at deployment for Death Guard, I chose to use my Death Shroud, the 2 units of Death Shroud as Deep Strike. I put the Contemptor close with the Talisman and the Chaos Lord, hid them behind a ruin here. I kept the Plague Scrollers in the back. There was a big line of sight terrain here in the middle, so I tried to have some lines of fire. The Contemptor is here on this side. I chose to put Mortarion aggressively close to the center, hoping to get first turn. I don't know, it was very difficult to hide. I think that's the best use of him. Here it was a bit difficult to keep him hidden, but yeah, I wanted to use him very aggressively, hopefully to win the first turn. The Plague Marines, the Plague Caster, and some Poxwalkers, and the Plague Marines with the Flail were to advance on this side and try to take this objective. And there are some Plague Marines here to take this objective, and some more Plague Marines in the middle. I was trying also to screen my line, and 1 Poxwalker unit here to hold the backfield objective. He could just really get it, just nearly get it behind the ruin here. For the Battle Sisters, the Seraphims, they were put on Deep Strike, and they were on the 3 Rhinos. The Retributors on the Rhino were on this side here, and then the Rhinos having the Sacrasent, and 10 Battle Sisters here on the right side. And then the big squad of 20 Sisters with Morvenn Vahl, the Hospitaller, and Dogmata, and then the Missionary here in the center. And then here we had the Canoness and the Palatine were hidden here behind this ruin. So deploying aggressively, hoping to win first turn, and Nurgle was smiling in this dice roll, giving Death Guard the first turn. So looking at the game synopsis here, quickly guiding you through the battle. So in the Death Guard turn 1, having won the first target, I moved the Mortarion 12 inches here, so that he would have a possibility to make a charge against the Sisters, or there was some Sisters hidden here behind this ruin. The Psychic, the Plague Marines, the Plague Caster, the Poxwalkers moved towards this objective. The Plague Marines here advanced to take this objective. The Contemptor came out from behind the ruins to have some line of sight to this squad. The Plague Scrollers moved a little bit to have better line of sight. So everything basically moved forward to grab terrain and to bring Mortarion aggressively into play. In the Psychic phase, unfortunately, there was a big problems here. Mortarion failed to cast Miasma Pestilence, and he failed also the Gift of Plagues. The Gift of Plagues with Gloaming Bloat, I think, is really imperative if you are facing a lot of Meltas, because having a 12-inch bubble where you deny rerolls is really a must. The opponent has to choose if he wants to get within 12 inch, he cannot reroll. If he's outside the 12 inch, at least he's not doing d6 plus 2 damage. That is really strong in getting Mortarion down. But I failed both of them. Also, the Sisters didn't even have to deny. Probably should have command point reroll at this point, but I was worried to use too much here. The shooting phase, the Psychic phase was bad, but the shooting phase was really strong. The Plague Scrollers with the mortars, they could do the blast on this big unit of Battle Sisters. I killed a lot of them, only leaving 4 or 5 Sisters left here. Also, the Entropy Cannons blew up the Rhino containing the Retributors, leaving them exposed, and killed 3 in the emergency disembarking. So the opponent lost 1 of the multi-meltas. The Contemptors and the Marines took out some more Sisters in the center. So it was only very few left, and the Battle Sisters haven't. If they had gone first, they could have made some defensive buffs here, but they couldn't in the first turn here. In the charge phase, then, importantly, again, a very good charge phase. Mortarion, I rolled an 11, and he made it into to the charge. It was a very strange charge here. I was lucky, and he killed off a squad of 5 Battle Sisters, tagging the second squad of 5 Battle Sisters here, and scoring me 3 victory points for engaging on all 4 fronts, actually, with Mortarion getting in. So in the Battle Sisters turn 1, seeing Mortarion close to their lines after a bit of a stress there, the sisters didn't panic, and the Hospitaller, she could bring back the dead Retributor with a multi-melta and 1 superior, so all 8 multi-meltas were alive and kicking close to Mortarion. The Retributors could just move outside 9-inch of Mortarion, and because I didn't get the Gift of Plagues, they would be able to attack with d6 plus 2 damage and having rerolls. So the sisters from Mortarion fell back, and Morvenn and Canoness and Palatine moved closer to be able to charge Mortarion, and Morvenn gave one of the Retributors full rerolls. On the other side, the Sacrasent Rhino moved towards the Plague Marines and the Plague Caster to the other objective side, and then in the shooting phase, everything was targeting Mortarion. The Retributor squads used all their cherubs to fire extra shots, so in total 20 melta shots were fired, with one squad had full rerolls and the other had just, I think, reroll once. And Mortarion was brought down to 7 wounds. I had some quite decent save rolls, but he was really, it was really a bloodbath there, but still surviving. And then Morvenn, Canoness, and the Palatine all charge into Mortarion, and here importantly, the Palatine could apply the Fight Last ability from the Ward of the Emperor. If she hadn't done that, then Mortarion could have interrupted and maybe killed off one of the characters in the fight phase. Morvenn did a lot of damage on Mortarion, leaving him with only a couple of wounds left, and then the Canoness, with the last dice throw, basically took off the last wound of Mortarion. I failed, I think, 4 feel no pains. I just needed to make a couple of 1-2 of those, but I didn't get any. So at the end, he died. Mortarion died without even exploding, and didn't have the chance to swing back. But again, if I had succeeded with Miasma of Pestilence, if I had succeeded with Gift of Plagues, I think he would still be left standing, and the game would have taken, would have been different here. And here again, the Rapture's blows on the Canoness really helped because making a damage 3 out of a damage 2 weapon, and that was ultimately what took down Mortarion. So in the Death Card turn 2, I had lost Mortarion, but I was standing strong. I had 2 objectives and the opponent only 1, so I scored 15 victory points at the start of the phase, and I moved things forward. At least Mortarion Sacrifice had left the other units unhurt, and also all the characters were a bit unexposed here, so I had hopes that I could maybe take some of the characters out. And I brought in the Death Card had the general move forwards, and the Death Shroud arrived from Deep Strike. I brought one on this side to look at this Rhino with the Sacrasents, and on this side I brought the Death Shroud that had the Reaper of Glorious Entropy relic, hopefully to make the charge to the unprotected characters. The Death Shroud would be able to do a lot of damage against these characters, I was hoping. And there was a lot of nice targets for me in the shooting phase, but the shooting phase was horrible compared to the first turn, where I could do a lot of damage, especially the Plague Scrollers. I was not able to do so much, and I took out quite a lot of the Retributors, but I couldn't take out any characters for scoring, etc. And the Sacrasent Rhino from the other Plague Scroller that was shooting, it was left with only 1 wound. I was shooting everything I had. I hoped to take out the Sacrasent and be able to take them out with a light fire shooting, but ultimately I couldn't do that. And then In the charge phase, again a bad phase. Both Death Shroud failed their 9-inch charges. This could have been also very strong if at least this squad have been able to do that. And I saved, of course, a command point reroll, but ultimately I didn't make the charge, and now it was a bit open for a counterattack from the Battle Sisters. So in the Battle Sisters turn 2, they score only 5 victory points for the primary objective. But after this lackluster death card turn 2, the Battle Sisters look to capitalize. The Canoness moves in towards the Plague Marines. The Morvenn and Palatine move in towards the 1 unit of Death Shroud. The Battle Sisters on the right flank come across this side with 1 Rhino. They can disembark and do some actions here. And the Sacrasents disembark from the Rhino. And the Death Shroud, they are ready to charge here. After shooting and charges, the Poxwalker unit here was quite severely damaged. I interrupted with my Plague Marines in the fight phase, and I brought the Canoness down to 1 wound. So this game was a lot of either 1 or 0 wound. It was a lot of 50-50 rolls, let's say. And the Canoness then struck down and took out the whole Plague Marines with her damage 3 weapon, basically, from this upgrade. And here my opponent, of course, charged with a smoking Rhino on the Death Shroud, and then the Sacrasents could make the charge without the pistols, the flamer pistols of the Death Shroud being able to fire Overwatch. The Palatine again used her skill for the Death Shroud to fight last, and Palatine and Morvenn killed off my 3 Death Shroud on the other side. And here the Sacrasents killed 1 of the Death Shroud guys, 1 surviving with 1 wound, so I have 2 Death Shroud guys, and with the scything rolls I killed off, I think, 5-6 of these Sacrasents, and I have my Plague Marines for the next round to come in and help. So quite strong in the fight phase for the Battle Sisters, especially on the other side, things were looking a bit more dark, let's say. So in the turn 3, unfortunately, time was running out, literally, because the store was closing. So the third turn was to be the final one before we had to get out. The death card lines were thinning out, and then I moved in my Plaguecaster and Plague Marines to charge the Sacrasent and take the objective from the Sisters on the right. The Plaguecaster used Curse of the Leper, but it was denied. The Sisters, all units can deny on a 6+, and they have some stratagems to deny on a 4+. So they are really strong anti-psyker army, let's say. In the shooting phase, I killed the Canoness by my Plague Marines, but she was resurrected by the stratagem and with 1 wound left. And then the Contemptor, in the epic moment of the game, steps up to the plate and shoots at Morvenn Vahl with a Tollkeeper and the rerolls and the mortal wounds. He scored 4 wounds and 4 mortal wounds. He scored and unsaved 4 wounds and 4 mortal wounds, killing Morvenn Vahl, dealing the 8 wounds necessary in 1 go, and becoming let's say the most valuable unit in this round. And the Sacrasents are killed with a combined effort of the Marines and the remaining Death Shroud champion, and then leaving the floor for 1 last turn for the Battle Sisters. The Seraphim unit arrived from Deep Strike, killing off the last Death Shrouds and some of the Plague Marines, scoring quite a lot of victory points there, let's say. And with Miracle dice, a 6 and a 5, the Seraphim can do an 11-inch charge and lock down the Plagueverse Scrollers. So the game was stopped there. We tallied up the victory points so far, and I had a small lead here, 44 to 41. This game was really good, with a lot of ups and downs in luck for both sides, and a lot of decisive rolls, a lot of times where it could have taken either turn in the game. So it was really exciting until the very end. I think the game would have been exciting still until turn 5. Both sides we had it was possible to win for both sides. Plenty of units left. more Battle Sisters units left on the board, but also a lot of their characters starting to become exposed. But with my Plague Scrollers locked down, maybe my second line of attack, maybe one unit of Plague Marines left to be able to do something, and the Contemptor being able to shoot at characters, it would have been really interesting to see how it would end. So the key learnings and unit rankings and improvements for Death Guard. I think this game showed that Mortarion really needs to succeed with Miasma of Pestilence, and especially the Gift of Plagues, together with the Gloaming Bloat, to be able to survive a turn with so many multi-meltas on the table. I think even in this game where I just lost him, I think Mortarion still brought good value because he took all the focus from the enemy army for one turn, exposing, let's say, their characters for my counterattack. That ultimately was not perfect, but it was. I think it broke the lines of the enemy and his plans to keep everything maybe more coherent with the Battle Sisters. Especially this map with the 4 quarters, the distance to be able to come into engagement is quite small, especially for this map. Mortarion could be engaging in turn 1, as it also happened in this game. The Contemptor was really the star player in the star unit in this battle, single-handedly taking out Morvenn Vahl. And he's a good match versus the sisters. He has a very high amount of shots and mortal wounds, etc. Can really do a lot of work on the Battle Sister squads with no need of very high strength or very high damage weaponry. The Plague Marines, the bolters worked well. The Blight Launcher is not optimal, but they would need a bit more of the flail in melee versus tougher opponents. I used the trench fighters a couple of times, but they just didn't put enough wounds on the enemy. So some flails instead of the Blight Launchers, I think, would have been the correct choice for this particular matchup with Battle Sisters. The Plague Scrollers did really well in turn 1, but then the dice didn't want well in turn 2. The Entropy Cannons took out the Rhinos, and the Mortar Blast was really strong against the big infantry squad in the beginning, but then with a couple of bad rolls, you cannot do any rerolls. You're just left to the, let's say, to the dice roll with Plague Scrollers. The Chaos Lord and the Tallyman didn't do more than babysit the Contemptor. It would be nice if I could have a, let's say, Lord of Contagion to do some damage, but I think the Chaos Lord would have been involved in the game from turn 4, maybe using the Plague Skull of Clothilla to make some mortal wounds. The Death Shroud did a lackluster game. The one squad was wiped out, failing their charge roll. The other ones took some beating from the Sacrasents, but ultimately they were better there, but still lost them. And of course, the Death Shroud 9-inch charge is a make or break for them. And in this game, I wasn't lucky to get the 9-inch charges here. It would be so nice if we had a +1 to the charge like the Battle Sisters can have. So it's a pity also that the Curse of the Leopard didn't go off. The Plaguecaster was quite. I was really unsuccessful with my psychic powers in this game, and of course with Battle Sisters being able to deny army-wide, yeah, it's quite difficult to get the psychic powers going. So key learnings facing Battle Sisters. It was really interesting to face this army with so many toughness 3 bodies, so many supporting characters, so many abilities, etc. Kind of similar to the Space Marines, at least all the weapons are quite similar, but they play quite differently. So it was interesting to see their strengths and their weaknesses, and the miracle dice are also interesting because they can really make for some fun stuff in the game. The Retributors are very lethal. Being able to bring 4 multi-meltas in a squad is the cheapest way to, let's say, bring multi-meltas to the table. And I have a Hall of Fame list calculation in the next slide to show you. So they don't cost much, and the Rhino can protect them in the first turn. The Argent Shroud order is really strong, and my opponent was really it was really good selection on his part to take the Argent Shroud for the Retributors, giving them the extra reroll, let's say extra rerolls per turn, and then the advance and being able to shoot, that's really strong. Advancing better and shooting with no penalty multi-meltas is really strong. Morvenn was a very strong character, super buff, more buffing than Gilliman, more buffing than Mortarion, of course, and she can do a lot of damage on her own with her missiles. In melee, she's also strong, and she's really durable, having the incoming damage and 4+ invul. So I was quite lucky there with my Contemptor to be able to take her out in one turn. The Word of the Emperor upgrade for the characters is really strong, a big threat, especially towards Mortarion. The fight last ability can really hurt, and now I feel how it is to face the Foul Blightspawn. And with Miracle Dice, it can also make the opponent not use his Invul Saves, so that's really a very, very strong and potent anti-Mortarion weapon that the Battle Sisters have. The Miracle Dice keeps you on the edge because they can be used to make, let's say, a very big charge on making some very high damage with the Meltas, etc. Of course, that can be really strong for the Battle Sisters. And then the loads of Toughness 3 bodies with 1 wounds make a lot of the hard-hitting Death Card weapons that are typically very good against the Space Marines not so effective. So the number of attacks is more crucial than the quality and of the strength of the weapon, etc. So, for example, my blight launchers were okay, but I would have better spent the points on flails here to get more attacks and better attacks in melee to take out more sisters there. The bloatdrones with speeders would have been great. A lot of number of attacks with 1 damage would have been better than, for example, the entropy cannons or the mortar even. But then it requires that the long range units take out some retributors. The retributors would be really devastating against the bloatdrones. Bolter fire is good against the sisters, especially if they are in contagion. They get toughness 2. And then wounding on 2s for the bolters would be quite good. And with Inexorable, adding some AP would have been a very good combo. So, for example, Blight Lords with combi bolters, Plague Marines with bolters, and the Sigil. You just need a high volume of fire more than strong, high damaging weapons to kill the Battle Sisters. So, as I said, just a quick retributor calculation with the multi-meltas. I did some numbers to see their damage output to go towards the typical targets I've been simulating. So per 100 points, a 24-inch range, 5 retributors with 4 multi-meltas for 140 points that do much more damage than any other unit I've analyzed so far, better than the Eradicators, and together with the Argent Shroud, not even included here, they would have been even doing more damage with some rerolls, and they also have a very higher threat range. The distance they can shoot, advancing and shooting with no penalty, that's really strong. In 12-inch range, of course, they are still the best. Again, better. They do more damage on the D6+2, and all these numbers are before even including any rerolls. So, and they are a core unit, and they can be easily buffed by Morvenn Vahl, for example, giving them reroll for everything, making them very, very strong. So, some summary and final thoughts. A very good and enjoyable game where Mortarion and the army, the Death Guard army, experienced a lot of ups and downs, a lot of lucky rolls, a lot of unlucky rolls, and I think both me and my opponent had the same feeling. We were lucky in some part, unlucky in some other, and that kept it really interesting until the very end. Even if I use this generic list and not fitting for, let's say, not particularly optimized for Battle Sisters, I think the list, the Death Card could hold their own. I could keep the objectives. I could do some damage. It was really interesting to see, even if I lost Mortarion very quickly. It was really a pity that we didn't have time to conclude. I think the game was really open. So even if I had a slight edge at points at that point, in my book, this game goes down as a draw. So finally, I would like to thank Nick for this very good game, and I'm looking forward to possibility to get a next match in where we will have the time to go the full five rounds. So this concludes the video. What do you think about this battle, and what do you think about the new Battle Sisters? Have you had some experience on the table? What do you think about the Retributors and Morvenn Vahl, if you have been able to face them? Please leave some comments below. If you like this video, please press like, and if you want, and subscribe to the channel, where I will be bringing you more Death Card Tactics videos. And if you want to support my activities further, please visit my Patreon page and be part of the community there. And with these words, General Yanis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye bye.